The Zeltari invasion fleet emerged from temporal distortion in perfect formation. Kate watched from the command center as the tactical display updated. The alien armada was massive. Over 300 vessels arranged in concentric rings around a central command ship. The dreadnought at the center dwarfed the one from the previous war. Nearly 20 kilometers across its crystalline surface, pulsed with deadly energy. The combined Earth-Keldari defense force seemed small in comparison. 147 human vessels supplemented by 33 Keldari ships. The defenders had positioned themselves in a layered defense surrounding Earth. Each ship equipped with the latest temporal technology, each crew ready to fight to the eye, and Admiral Foster, now the Supreme Commander of Earth Forces, opened a channel to all ships. Remember what we fight for today. We defend not just our world, but our right to exist as a free species. The Zeltari would make us slaves or worse. We stopped. Then once we will stop them again. The Keldari leader Lyria added her own message. Her temporal communication translated for all human crews. We stand with our human allies. The Zeltari believe themselves gods. We will show them they are merely bullies, and like all bullies they will fall when confronted with true courage. Kate coordinated the defensive strategy from Earth Command Center. Amy Reeves monitored the temporal shielding grid that now surrounded the planet. Captain Lisa Harper commanded, a battle group positioned near Luna. Their mission was to protect the flanking approach to Earth. The Zeltari made no demands, no communication attempts. Their intentions were clear from their formation. An attack pattern designed to overwhelm defenses. Through sheer numbers, the alien fleet began its advance, moving with the perfect coordination that had made them so deadly in the previous encounter. Admiral Foster gave the order initiate Operation Time Shift. The human Keldari fleet activated their temporal disruption fields. The effect rippled across space, targeting the advancing Zeltari. The aliens had expected this. Their larger vessels seemed unaffected, protected by countermeasures developed since the last battle. But the smaller ships faltered, momentarily forced into normal space. That moment was enough. Earth forces launched the first strike. Thousands of missiles accelerated toward the vulnerable Zeltari escorts. The aliens attempted to phase out of reality, but the disruption fields held them in place. The missiles struck home. Dozens of crystalline vessels shattered. The Zeltari recovered quickly. Their return fire was devastating. Beams of energy that bent space itself lanced out from the larger ships. Several human vessels were hit. Despite their improved shielding, they could not withstand the full power of the alien weapons. 5 Earth ships destroyed in the opening minutes. Kate adjusted the defense grid, channeling more power to the disruption fields. The Keldari vessels moved into formation with their human allies. Their organic crystalline ships flowed into new positions, adapting to the changing battle conditions. Lyria led her people with courage, positioning her vessel between a disabled Earth cruiser and the Zeltari assault. Lisa Harper executed a daring flanking maneuver. Her battle group accelerated around the lunar orbit, emerging behind a Zeltari formation. Her ships launched a coordinated attack, catching the aliens off guard. 3 more enemy vessels destroyed before they could respond. The captain had learned from the previous war. Hit fast, then withdraw before they could lock weapons. The Zeltari dreadnought remained in the rear of their formation, protected by layers of escorts. Its massive weapon systems were charging. Earth sensors detected enormous energy buildups. The aliens had improved their technology. The dreadnought could now fire without entering optimal range. A direct hit from its main weapon would overwhelm even the enhanced planetary shields. Amy Reeves monitored the energy readings with growing concern. The physicist recognized the danger. If the dreadnought fired at full power, nothing in the human arsenal could stop it. They needed a new strategy. The scientist contacted Kate with an urgent message. The admiral listened as Amy explained her theory. The Zeltari dreadnought was generating a temporal field so powerful, it was creating a localized distortion in space-time. This explained why the disruption technology was less effective against the larger vessels, but the distortion could be turned against them. If they could invert the frequency of their disruption fields, it might create a resonance cascade, forcing the aliens into a temporal feedback loop. The plan was risky. It required precise timing and coordination. The entire defense fleet would need to modify their disruption fields simultaneously. If they succeeded, the Zeltari ships would be locked in a time bubble, unable to phase or fire. If they failed, the defenders would lose their only advantage. Kate presented the plan to Admiral Foster. The Supreme Commander considered the options. They were already taking heavy losses. The Zeltari advance continued inexorably toward Earth. The Dreadnought would be in firing position within 30 minutes. They had to try. Foster gave the command. All ships to synchronize disruption fields on Amy Reeves' specifications. The fleet acknowledged. Engineers across every vessel worked frantically to adjust their systems. The Keldari were vital to the effort, their intimate knowledge of temporal mechanics allowing the modifications to be completed quickly. Lisa Harper positioned her battle group for the critical role. Her ships would need to get close enough to the Dreadnought to ensure the disruption field affected its temporal core. The captain knew it was likely a suicide mission, but volunteered anyway. Her crew stood with her, each understanding what was at stake. Kate watched as the modified fleet moved into position. The Zeltari continued their advance, unaware of the trap being set. The Dreadnought charged its main weapon energy, building toward critical levels. Earth had minutes, perhaps seconds. Amy gave the final adjustments to the disruption field parameters. The modifications were transmitted to all ships. The Keldari confirmed the changes would work in theory, though nothing on this scale had ever been attempted. It was time. Admiral Foster gave the order. Activate synchronized disruption fields, every ship in the Earth. Keldari fleet activated their modified fields simultaneously. The effect was immediate and dramatic. A wave of temporal energy rippled across space. The smaller Zeltari vessels froze in place, caught in the distortion. Their crystalline surfaces clouded as if frozen in time, but the Dreadnought resisted. The massive alien flagship continued to advance, though at reduced speed. Its temporal shielding fought against the disruption effect. The weapon continued, charging, approaching critical levels. Lisa Harper saw the opportunity. Her battle group accelerated toward the Dreadnought. They needed to get closer to amplify the effect. The Zeltari escorts were immobilized, unable to protect their flagship. The human vessels closed rapidly. Taking fire from the Dreadnought's secondary weapons, several ships were hit. But they pressed on. The captain directed her vessel toward a specific point on the alien flagship, a junction where energy flowed to the main weapon. Her scientists had identified it as a potential weak point in the temporal shielding. The disruption field from her ship alone would not be enough, but combined with the others, it might tip the balance. Kate watched the tactical display with growing hope. The synchronized fields were having an effect. The Dreadnought was slowing. More of its systems were becoming erratic. The weapon charge was fluctuating. They were close to success. Then disaster struck. The Zeltari flagship suddenly surged with power. Its crystalline structure glowed with blinding intensity. The aliens were overloading their systems in a desperate attempt to break free of the temporal trap. The Dreadnought began to move faster, its weapon stabilizing, preparing to fire. Lisa recognized what was happening. The Zeltari were sacrificing their own ships, drawing power from the immobilized escorts to fuel the flagship. Her sensors detected energy being channeled from the smaller vessels to the Dreadnought. The aliens were willing to abandon their own forces to ensure victory. The captain made her decision. Harper ordered her crew to evacuate. She would remain aboard to complete the mission. She set a collision course. The engines pushed beyond safety limits. Her ship accelerated directly toward the Dreadnought's weapon core, where the temporal distortion was weakest. Kate tried to contact Lisa to order her to pull away. There was no response. The captain had disabled communications. Her ship continued its suicidal charge. The distance closed rapidly. The Dreadnought attempted to target the approaching vessel, but its systems were still affected by the disruption field. Lisa's ship collided with the Dreadnought's weapon core at near relativistic speed. The impact created a cascading temporal explosion unlike anything ever witnessed. The disruption field interacted with the dreadnought's overloaded temporal systems, creating a paradox loop. The massive vessel imploded, its crystalline structure collapsing in on itself. The temporal energy released pulled the surrounding Zeltari fleet into the distortion. A massive shockwave of temporal energy spread outward. The Earth Keldari fleet narrowly escaped, riding the edge of the wave. The immobilized Zeltari vessels were not so fortunate. Every alien ship caught in the effect vanished, pulled into a temporal vortex that closed as quickly as it had formed. When sensors cleared, the enemy fleet was gone. Every Zeltari vessel had vanished. Not destroyed, but displaced. Sensors indicated a massive temporal shift had occurred. The aliens had been pushed out of normal space-time. Amy theorized they had been sent either to the distant past or far future, unable to return. The first contact happened on a quiet Tuesday morning. Kate Wilson sat at her desk in the United Earth Defense Force headquarters, sipping her morning coffee when the alarms began to blare. The massive view screen at the front of the command center flickered to life, showing an enormous object materializing near Jupiter. No one knew what to make of it at first. The object was unlike anything humans had ever constructed, a massive crystalline structure that seemed to shimmer and pulse with internal light. It measured nearly 5 kilometers across and emitted strange radiation patterns that confused Earth sensors. Admiral Diane Foster ordered all available ships to establish a defensive perimeter. The UES Valkyrie, under Captain Ellis Montgomery, was the closest vessel to the anomaly. She approached with caution, maintaining communication with Earth Command. First contact protocols were initiated. A standard greeting transmitted on all frequencies. The crystalline object remained silent for nearly 6 hours as tension built throughout the solar system. Then, without warning, it began to change. The massive structure split into 7 smaller vessels, each still larger than the biggest human battleship. They arranged themselves in a perfect formation and accelerated toward Mars. Colony Kate watched in horror as Admiral Foster ordered Captain Montgomery to intercept. The Valkyrie was a formidable vessel, the pride of the fleet, equipped with the most advanced human technology. But it was a rowboat compared to the alien armada. The aliens made their intentions clear when they reached Mars. Their crystalline ships surrounded the colony and began to glow with strange energy. Mars' defense grid activated automatically, launching a barrage of missiles and energy weapons, none connected. The projectiles passed through the alien vessels as if they were ghosts. The energy weapons seemed to be absorbed, making the crystalline structures glow brighter. The aliens responded with weapons of their own, strange beams that distorted space itself, cutting through the Martian defenses like they were made of paper. Kate felt cold dread wash over her as the command center received the final transmission from Mars Colony before it went silent. 2 million colonists gone in less than 20 minutes. The Valkyrie arrived too late to save Mars, but Captain Montgomery engaged anyway, perhaps hoping to slow the aliens' advance. The brave ship launched everything it had. The alien vessels simply phased in and out of reality, avoiding all attacks while their strange weapons tore the human vessel apart. Admiral Foster declared a system-wide emergency. All Earth colonies were to evacuate immediately. All military assets were to converge at Earth. 3 more Earth ships were lost in the retreat. Destroyed by enemies that seemed to bend the laws of physics, Kate called her sister Mary, who was stationed on Europa base. The connection was poor, filled with static, but the message was clear. Get out now. Mary promised to catch the next transport. The transport never arrived. Within days, the mysterious aliens that Earth forces now called the Zeltari had systematically eliminated every human outpost beyond the lunar orbit. The few survivors told the same story. The alien ships would appear suddenly, attack with unstoppable force, and disappear again. Their crystalline vessels phased in and out of reality, making conventional weapons useless against them. Earth prepared for the worst. Planetary defense systems were activated. The remaining fleet formed a defensive line. The situation looked hopeless against an enemy that could appear anywhere and seemed invulnerable to human weapons. Kate was assigned to the tactical analysis team. Her job was to find any weakness in the alien technology. She worked alongside other brilliant minds, including Dr. Amy Reeves, a theoretical physicist with unorthodox ideas. Most of the military brass dismissed Amy as too eccentric, but Kate saw something In her theories about quantum displacement, the Zeltari continued their advance. Luna base fell next. The aliens appeared suddenly, overwhelming the defenses before they could respond. The massive defense cannons on the lunar surface fired directly at the crystalline ships. The aliens simply shifted out of phase, letting the energy pass through them before solidifying to return. Fire Earth received the distress calls from Luna, but could do nothing to help. Thousands more lives were lost. The survivors spoke of the aliens' strange abilities, how they seemed to know where attacks would come from before they happened. Amy worked tirelessly in her lab beneath the Rocky Mountains, studying the radiation patterns from the alien ships Kate visited, her frequently bringing new data from each encounter. The physicist had a wall covered in equations and diagrams that made little sense to anyone else. 3 months after first contact, the Zeltari reached Earth orbit. Their main fleet consisted of 27 crystalline vessels arranged in a perfect formation. The largest ship, a massive dreadnought, positioned itself directly above New Washington. Kate sat in the war room with the remaining generals and Admiral Foster. The tactical display showed the overwhelming alien force. The room was silent. Everyone knew that conventional weapons had proven useless against the Zeltari. Their phasing technology made them nearly invincible. That's when Kate received an urgent message from Amy. The physicist claimed to have discovered something important about the alien technology. She had been analyzing the radiation patterns from each encounter and noticed something no one else had. The Zeltari ships weren't actually phasing between dimensions, they were manipulating time. This revelation changed everything. Amy explained that the alien vessels generated localized fields where time moved differently. This allowed them to see attacks before they happened, shifting their position accordingly. It wasn't teleportation or phasing. It was temporal manipulation. Kate rushed the information to Admiral Foster. The Admiral looked skeptical, but they had no other options. Earth had hours, perhaps days, before the final Zeltari assault. Amy claimed she had developed a theoretical countermeasure, a device that could disrupt the aliens' temporal fields, forcing them to remain in normal space, making them vulnerable. It was a desperate gamble, but humanity had run out of alternatives. Admiral Foster called an emergency meeting with all remaining ship captains. Kate sat quietly as Amy explained her theory to the gathered military leaders. The physicist used simple terms, trying to make the complex science understandable. The Zeltari ships created bubbles of altered time, allowing them to perceive events slightly before they happened. This gave them their seemingly supernatural ability to avoid attacks. Many officers looked doubtful, some openly scoffed. But Captain Lisa Harper, of the scout vessel, Defiant, leaned forward with interest. Her small ship was one of the few that had encountered the Zeltari and escaped. Her crew had observed the aliens' strange phasing behavior up close. Amy proposed a countermeasure, a device that would broadcast a specific frequency, disrupting the temporal manipulation fields. According to her calculations, this would force the Zeltari ships to remain in normal space, making them vulnerable to conventional weapons. The science was theoretical, but the principle was sound. Admiral Foster looked around the room at the tired faces of her officers. Earth was down to its last defensive line. They had nothing to lose. The decision was made. The engineering teams would begin immediate production of the disruption devices based on Amy's specifications. Every ship, every station, every fighter would be equipped with the technology. But they needed to test it first. Lisa Harper volunteered the Defiant. Her ship was fast and agile, perfect for the dangerous mission. If the device worked, they would know quickly. If it failed, they would likely not survive to report back. Engineers worked through the night, modifying the Defiant's systems. The small vessel had limited power, but Amy believed it would be enough to generate the disruption field at close range. Lisa selected her best crew members for the mission. Each understood the risks. Each knew the importance of their task. Kate watched from the command center as the Defiant prepared to launch. She had grown close to Lisa during the war. They had shared stories of lost homes and friends. Both had sworn to fight until the end. Now Kate feared she might lose another friend. The scout ship slipped away from Earth under minimal power, hoping to avoid detection. The Zeltari blockade was tight. but there were gaps between their patrol routes. Lisa navigated these dangerous spaces, her hands steady on the controls. Her first officer, Diane, kept watch on the sensor readings. They approached the outermost ring of the Zeltari blockade. A single alien patrol ship detected them almost immediately and moved to intercept. The crystalline vessel glowed with internal light as it altered course. The alien ship began its familiar phasing pattern, its outline becoming hazy as it prepared to attack. Lisa ordered the device activated. For several heartbeats, nothing happened. The alien continued its approach, energy building in its weapons. The crew of the Defiant prepared for the end. Then something extraordinary occurred. The Zeltari ship fully materialized, its crystalline structure suddenly solid and present. The alien vessel seemed to shudder as if confused. Its weapons powered down, then up again, as its systems tried to compensate. Lisa gave the order to fire a single railgun round tore through the previously untouchable alien hull. The Zeltari ship erupted in a spectacular display of light and scattered fragments. For the first time, a human vessel had destroyed one of the invaders. Bridge crew stood in shocked silence. Then cheers erupted. Lisa immediately ordered a course back to Earth. They needed to share the news. The disruption field had worked. The Zeltari could be beaten. Kate received the transmission with tears in her eyes. The test had succeeded. Humanity had found a weakness in the seemingly invincible enemy. Admiral Foster ordered immediate mass production. Every available factory was converted to produce the disruption devices. Engineers worked without sleep, converting power systems and reconfiguring communication arrays. The Zeltari seemed to sense the change. They accelerated their timeline, launching their main assault earlier than expected. Their massive dreadnought, a ship the size of a small city, led the charge. Its surface rippled with energy as it approached Earth orbit. Smaller vessels surrounded it in perfect formation. Kate coordinated the deployment of the modified Earth vessels. Each was equipped with the disruption technology, but the range was limited. They would need to get close to the alien ships to be effective. It would be a dangerous battle with many losses, but for the first time they had hope. The Earth fleet met the Zeltari advance in high orbit. The human vessels were outnumbered and outgunned, but they had surprise on their side. The aliens expected another easy victory. They did not expect resistance. The first wave of Earth ships activated their disruption fields. The effect rippled across space. The smaller Zeltari vessels solidified, unable to phase Captain Lee aboard the destroyer. Sentinel scored the second confirmed kill. His weapons tore through a crystalline ship that had previously been untouchable. The aliens responded with fury, their weapons still outmatched. Human technology, even without their phasing advantage. Several Earth ships were destroyed in the opening minutes of the battle. But the humans pressed the attack. Smaller fighters darted between the larger vessels, targeting vulnerable points on the now solid Zeltari ships. Kate watched the tactical display as the battle unfolded. The disruption fields worked, but not perfectly. The largest Zeltari ships could still partially phase, requiring multiple hits to destroy. The dreadnought remained largely unaffected, its massive power systems allowing it to resist the disruption. Amy worked frantically to increase the power of the disruption field. She needed to find a way to affect the dreadnought. If the alien flagship could deploy its main weapon, Earth would still fall. Lisa Harper returned to the battle, leading a squadron of modified fighters. The small vessels darted around the larger alien ships, delivering precision strikes at critical points. Several more Zeltari vessels shattered under the assault, but the fighters were vulnerable. The aliens adapted their tactics, focusing fire on the small craft. Kate watched in horror as Lisa's fighter took a direct hit. The small vessel spun out of control, trailing debris. Lisa managed to stabilize her craft, but her weapons were offline. She was forced to retreat back to the orbital platform. The battle continued for hours, each side taking losses. The humans fought with desperate courage, knowing this was their last stand. The Zeltari fought with cold efficiency, their perfect formations breaking apart as more of their ships were destroyed. On the ground, Amy made a breakthrough. She found a way to amplify the disruption field. By channeling all power through the main planetary defense grid, they could create a pulse strong enough to affect even the dreadnought. But there was a catch. The pulse would only last for seconds. The aliens would adapt quickly. They would need to strike the killing blow in that brief window. Kate relayed the plan to Admiral Foster. The Admiral nodded grimly. They would get one chance to defeat the dreadnought. They would need a direct hit at its core while it was vulnerable. The defense grid could not target with such precision. They would need a ship to deliver the attack. Captain Ellis Montgomery aboard the newly commissioned UES Valkyrie II volunteered. Her vessel was the only remaining capital ship with enough firepower. She knew it was likely a one-way mission. The dreadnought was preparing its main weapon. Earth had minutes, perhaps seconds. The Valkyrie II accelerated toward the massive alien dreadnought. Captain Ellis Montgomery stood tall on her bridge. Her crew worked with quiet efficiency, each knowing the importance of their mission. The ship carried a modified version of the disruption device designed to amplify its effect at close range. They would have to get within 2 kilometers of the dreadnought to be effective. Kate monitored their approach from Earth Command Center. The massive alien flagship loomed in the view screen, its crystalline surface pulsing with strange energies. The dreadnought was charging its main weapon, a devastating energy beam that could slice through planetary defenses. A countdown timer showed less than 5 minutes until firing. On the ground, Amy supervised the final adjustments to the planetary defense grid. All available power was being diverted to create the disruption pulse that would momentarily neutralize the dreadnought's temporal field. The timing had to be perfect. The grid would only have enough energy for one attempt. The remaining Earth fleet engaged the alien escorts, drawing them away from the flagship. The smaller Zeltari vessels fought fiercely, but without their phasing technology, they were vulnerable. Captain Lisa Harper had rejoined the battle in a borrowed fighter, leading a squadron against the alien right flank. Montgomery navigated through the chaos of battle. The Valkyrie II took several hits from Zeltari weapons. Shield strength dropped to 60%. Then 40 systems began to fail across the ship, but the engines and weapons remained operational. They pressed on. The dreadnought detected their approach. Defensive weapons locked onto the human vessel. Crystalline energy beams lanced out the Valkyrie. 2 rolled and evaded. The distance decreased. 4 kilometers. 3 Montgomery ordered all power to shields and engines. Kate watched the timer counting down to the disruption pulse. Amy stood beside her. The physicist had done all she could. Now everything depended on Captain Montgomery and her crew. The Valkyrie II closed to 2 kilometers. The dreadnought loomed impossibly large, filling the view screen. Its weapons continued to fire. The human ship could not evade all attacks. Shield strength dropped to 20%. Hull breaches reported on multiple decks. Montgomery gave the order, "Activate disruption field." Amy initiated the planetary pulse. For one breathless moment, nothing happened. Then a wave of energy rippled across space. The effect was visible as a distortion that passed through the battle zone. Every Zeltari ship temporarily solidified completely. The dreadnought shuddered as its temporal field collapsed. Montgomery did not hesitate. She ordered all weapons to fire the Valkyrie. 2 unleashed everything it had. Railguns, missile batteries, energy cannons, all targeted at the same point on the dreadnought's hull. A small opening where energy gathered for the main weapon. The combined assault struck home. The alien flagship convulsed. Energy cascaded across its crystalline structure. Internal explosions bloomed within its translucent hull. The dreadnought began to break apart, pieces of crystal larger than buildings drifting away from the central mass. But the Zeltari weapon was still charging. The disruption pulse had affected the ship's defenses, but not its offensive capabilities. The weapon port glowed with building energy. The dreadnought would fire its last shot even as it died. Montgomery assessed the situation in seconds. The weapon would fire directly at Earth. Nothing could stop it now except. She made her decision. The captain ordered her crew to evacuate using escape pods. She would remain aboard to complete the mission. Some argued, but time was short. The senior officers forced the junior crew into the pods, launching them away from the doomed vessel. Montgomery set a collision course. The engines screamed as she pushed them beyond safety limits. The damaged Valkyrie II accelerated toward the dreadnoughts. Weapon port. The distance closed rapidly. The aliens tried to adjust their aim to target the approaching vessel, but their systems were failing. Kate watched in horror as she realized what Montgomery intended. She tried to contact the Valkyrie 2 to order them to pull away. There was no response. Communications were down. The ship continued its suicidal charge. The Valkyrie 2 rammed directly into the alien weapon port at the precise moment it prepared to fire. The resulting explosion was beyond anything the scientists had predicted. The disruption field interacted with the dreadnought's energy matrix, creating a cascading failure that rippled through the entire Zeltari command structure. The massive vessel shattered completely fragments. Scattering across Earth orbit on, the command deck silence fell. Kate stared at the tactical display. The dreadnought was gone. Captain Montgomery and her remaining crew had sacrificed themselves to save Earth. Around the flagship, the battle continued, but the aliens had lost their coordination. Without the dreadnought to direct them, the Zeltari fleet fell into disarray. Some vessels retreated immediately, jumping to faster-than-light speeds. Others fought on, but with diminished effectiveness. Admiral Foster ordered all ships to press the attack. The remaining Earth forces surrounded the confused aliens. Disruption fields activated across the fleet. The Zeltari ships were forced into normal space, making them vulnerable. The tide had turned Lisa. Harper led her fighter squadron in pursuit of a retreating alien cruiser. Her weapons found their mark. The crystalline vessel shattered, adding another victory to the growing human tally. She allowed herself a small smile. The enemy that had seemed invincible was running. In the command center, Kate received reports from across the solar system. The Zeltari were in full retreat, abandoning their positions. Some alien vessels were self-destructing rather than face capture. Others were jumping to unknown coordinates beyond the solar system. Amy studied the sensor readings from the destruction of the dreadnought. The interaction between the disruption field and the alien weapon had created an unexpected effect. A quantum shockwave had traveled through the Zeltari fleet, damaging their temporal systems. This explained their sudden retreat. Admiral Foster called for a ceasefire. The remaining alien vessels were permitted to withdraw. There had been enough death on both sides. Earth had defended itself. The message was clear. Humanity would not be conquered. Kate stood at the memorial ceremony 1 week later. A monument had been erected, honoring those who had given their lives, particularly Captain Montgomery, whose sacrifice had saved Earth. The list of names was long, too long, but humanity had survived. Amy was there too. The physicist had been awarded Earth's highest civilian honor. Her discovery had turned the tide of the war. She accepted the recognition with humility, insisting that many others had contributed to the victory. Lisa approached Kate after the ceremony. The two friends embraced. Both had lost so much, yet gained a new appreciation for life. The captain had been promoted, now in command of her own vessel. She was preparing to lead an expedition to reclaim Mars. Kate looked up at the night sky. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if acknowledging that humans had earned their place among them. The war had changed everything, but one thing remained certain. Humanity would face whatever came next together. And yet questions remained. Who were the Zeltari? Why had they attacked? Would they return? The alien technology recovered from the battlefield might provide answers. Human scientists were already studying the crystalline fragments, learning their secrets. Admiral Foster had established a new division within the Earth Defense Force, the Quantum Defense Initiative. Their mission was to prepare for the possibility of the aliens' return. Kate had been offered command of the new division. Her experience and leadership during the crisis made her the logical choice. She accepted the position, knowing the responsibility it carried. Humanity needed to be ready. The Zeltari might return, or other threats might emerge from the depths of space. The universe was vast and likely filled with other intelligent species, some peaceful, others perhaps not. As Kate looked at the stars, she made a silent promise: Earth would never again be caught unprepared. 2 years passed since the Zeltari retreat. Kate Wilson, now Admiral Wilson, sat in her office at Quantum Defense Initiative headquarters, reviewing the latest reports. The reconstruction of Mars colony was proceeding ahead of schedule, nearly half. 1 million settlers had returned to the Red Planet. Orbital defenses had been upgraded with the new temporal shielding technology derived from studying the alien artifacts. Amy Reeves had made further breakthroughs in understanding the Zeltari technology. Her team had managed to replicate some of their quantum manipulation abilities on a small scale. Human ships now carried basic temporal shields that could detect and counter chrono attacks. They were preparing for the enemy return. Lisa Harper, now captain of the explorer vessel Horizon, led the effort to establish an early warning network throughout the solar system. Automated sensor platforms that could detect the unique temporal signatures of Zeltari vessels were positioned at strategic locations. The system would provide precious minutes of warning if the aliens returned. Earth had changed in other ways. The unified government that formed during the crisis remained in place. Nations put aside their differences, recognizing that survival required cooperation. The technological advances from studying alien technology had accelerated human development by decades. Some called it a golden age, but Kate knew better than to become complacent. The Zeltari had not been defeated, merely repelled. Their civilization was likely vast, perhaps spanning multiple star systems. The attack on Earth might have been just the vanguard of a larger force. She kept the defense forces on alert. Constant drills and training exercises ensured readiness. The warning came on an ordinary Wednesday afternoon. A sensor platform in the Kuiper Belt detected a temporal distortion. The signature did not match known Zeltari patterns, but it was definitely artificial. Kate ordered an immediate alert. The defense grid-powered-up ships moved into defensive positions. The early warning system had worked. Earth would not be caught unprepared again, but what emerged from the distortion was not what anyone expected. A single vessel appeared smaller than the Zeltari, dreadnoughts. Its design was crystalline, but with significant differences. More organic flowing lines rather than the harsh geometry of the previous invaders. It made no aggressive moves, instead, broadcasting on all frequencies. The message was simple: "We come in peace." Kate ordered a cautious response. A diplomatic vessel was dispatched under heavy escort. Captain Lisa Harper volunteered the Horizon for the mission. The explorer ship had been designed for first contact scenarios, equipped with advanced communication systems and cultural databases. The alien vessel remained stationary, allowing the Horizon to approach within visual range. Lisa was able to observe the crystalline ship more clearly. Its surface rippled with colors that seemed to form patterns almost like a language. The vessel was beautiful in a strange alien way. Communication proved challenging at first. The aliens did not use conventional radio or light-based signals. Their messages came as temporal pulses, shifts in the fabric of time itself. Amy Reeves, working from her lab on Earth, developed a crude translator. By analyzing the patterns they began to understand, the aliens called themselves the Keldari. They were cousins to the Zeltari, but from a different evolutionary branch. Both species had evolved on the same world before the Zeltari conquered it and drove the Keldari into exile. The refugees had scattered across the galaxy, establishing hidden colonies far from their aggressive relatives. The Keldari explained that they had monitored the conflict between humans and Zeltari. They had watched in amazement as Earth forces discovered a way to counter the temporal technology that had made the Zeltari nearly invincible for millennia. No other species had managed. This feat. Kate listened to the translated message with growing interest. The Keldari had come to propose an alliance. They believed the Zeltari would return with greater numbers. Earth had proven itself worthy of respect. The Keldari offered to share their knowledge of their cousins' tactics and technology. In exchange, they asked for sanctuary, a new home for their people who had lived as nomads for generations. The United Earth Council debated the proposal. Some voiced concerns about trusting any crystalline species after the devastating war. Others saw the opportunity to gain valuable intelligence about a potential future threat. Kate advocated for caution, but also openness. The Keldari had made no hostile moves. They appeared genuine in their desire for peace. A diplomatic meeting was arranged. The Keldari sent representatives to Earth orbit. Their physical forms were surprising, crystalline beings that seemed to shift and flow like liquid glass. Their bodies emitted soft light, in patterns that supplemented their temporal communication. They were beautiful and alien. Amy Reeves led the scientific delegation. Her understanding of temporal physics made her the logical choice to evaluate the Keldari claims. The physicist was fascinated by the visitors. Their mastery of time manipulation far exceeded what humans had managed to reverse engineer from the Zeltari wreckage. The Keldari ambassador, a being who called herself Lyria, spoke directly to the Earth Council, her temporal speech translated by Amy's devices. She told the history of their conflict with the Zeltari, how their cousins had developed the ability to manipulate time and used it to subjugate other species, how they believed themselves superior to all other life forms, how they would never accept defeat at the hands of humans. Kate asked the critical question, will they return, Lyrius? Crystalline form dimmed slightly, and what they had learned was an expression of sadness. Yes, they will return. The Zeltari. Do not forget or forgive, they are gathering a larger fleet. They will come with weapons you cannot imagine. The Earth Council voted to accept the Keldari Alliance. A treaty was signed granting the crystalline refugees settlement rights on several outer moons of Jupiter in exchange for their technological knowledge and strategic intelligence. A cultural exchange program was established. Scientists from both species began working together. Kate oversaw the integration of Keldari technology with Earth defenses. The crystalline beings helped upgrade the disruption fields, making them more powerful and efficient. The early warning network was expanded, reaching farther into space. New weapons were developed based on temporal principles that could target the Zeltari more effectively. Lisa Harper and the Horizon were assigned as liaisons to the Keldari settlement. The captain developed a close working relationship with Lyria. The two shared stories of their respective cultures, finding surprising commonalities despite their physical differences. Lisa learned that the Keldari were philosophers and artists at heart. Their technology had developed as a means of survival, not conquest. Amy Reeves made the most significant breakthrough. Working with Keldari scientists, she developed a theory about predictive temporal shielding, the ability to create a field that could anticipate attacks before they happened. Similar to what the Zeltari used, but refined and improved, the technology required enormous power, but if successful, it would change the nature of space. Combat Kate received regular intelligence briefings from the Keldari. The news was grim. The Zeltari were indeed preparing a larger force. Their defeat at Earth had become known throughout their empire, bringing shame to their military caste. The response would be overwhelming. Earth had perhaps one standard year to prepare. The Admiral intensified training and production. The lessons from the First War were incorporated into new battle strategies. Ships were retrofitted with the latest temporal technology. Defense platforms were constructed throughout the solar system. Humanity prepared for war while hoping for peace. Then came the day they had all feared. The early warning network detected multiple temporal distortions forming at the edge of the solar system. The signature matched Zeltari vessels, but the scale was unprecedented. Hundreds of distortions, each representing a ship. The invasion fleet had arrived, and it dwarfed the previous force. Kate ordered full mobilization, all ships to battle stations, all civilian centers to emergency protocols. The Keldari were notified of their cousin's arrival. Lyria offered their full support. The crystalline refugees had no love for their oppressors. They would stand with humanity. The final confrontation was about to begin.